Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's about time that we start this panel discussion. My name is, of course, Panu Wongcheum, and I'm a senior correspondent for Reuters, as well as the president of the Foreign Correspondent Club of Thailand. I would like to welcome you all here this evening on a very important panel discussion on the state of Thai tourism post-COVID. I would also like to, I understand that the panelists have a variety of distinguished panelists here this evening, most of whom are first-timers at the FCCT. So I would like to thank you all for being with us this evening. The Foreign Correspondent Club is, of course, the oldest, the largest, and the most active press club in Southeast Asia. Our membership includes correspondents from around the world, major media outlets, including, we can see today, the BBC, Nikkei Asia, Reuters, Bloomberg at the back. So many distinguished correspondents working here. And we also have associate members, including those in the travel industry and the tourism industry. So apart from priding ourselves as the home of free speech here, we also organize numerous events on travel and tourism. And we really like to encourage frank and honest discussion about this sort of, tourism sector, which is so important to Thailand. And being the oldest press club in the region, we also feel that is also part of our kind of role as well to help promote, what would be good for this country. So, our programs are about provoking, good discussion, good questions about the state of tourism that we're in. And this is, I think, a very sort of healthy kind of discussion that we're going to have this evening about sort of the state of the industry in this post-COVID era. I also, shortly before we start, I also like to urge those of you from the tourism industry to consider us, continue the conversation as we go forward, and also think of us as a place where you can do your press releases, as a place where we can have more discussion, even on more specific issues within the industry itself. And the FCCT would very much like to continue to host these discussions going forward. And of course, I want to give a special thank in advance for Imtaz, our member who put together this great panel. Thank you so much, sir.
Today we're going to take a look at tourism, which, as we all know, was a keystone in the Thai economy until 2019. Accounting probably for about 20% of GDP. People debate whether it's as high as that, but it was enormous. And of course, this industry was obliterated by COVID too. Suddenly you went from 40 million people coming in, a quarter of them Chinese, to none. Not even a few, just to none. It all vanished. And that's had immense repercussions on the Thai economy, labor, and what have you. So now we're in the sort of early post-COVID phase, recovering, and the big question that we're all looking at is how the Thai economy will turn around and rebound, and how tourism will reassert itself, where it will go. And the big issue is whether Thailand will learn from its mistakes in tourism, as well as its great successes, it must be said, and build back better. So I think that's the issue that everybody's sort of hovering around in different ways. Anyway, tonight we've got a very distinguished set of speakers. We have Senator Wirasak Kausurat, who's the former Minister of Tourism, twice, I believe, 2 times. And he was a deputy leader of the Chart Thai Party. He studied at Harvard Law School. We have up on the screen Peter Simone. Have I pronounced that correctly, Simone? Who is the chairman of the Bangkok-based Pacific Asia Travel Association, PATA, and chief of USAID's Tourism for All project in Dili, Timor-Leste. And then we have in the clubhouse, sitting in the middle, Arut Nawarat, who is managing director of Swan Sampran, formerly the Rose Garden, and president of the Thai Organic Consumer Association. And the Rose Garden is one of the great legacy institutions of Thai tourism. It really pioneered things, so it goes back an extremely long way. And then on my right, we have Chuleng Go, who is the general manager at the Athenae Hotel and has been in that position for an amazing 12 years. Is that correct? So part of the furniture. And she's a board member of the Thailand Incentive and Convention Association, TICA. So I thought we'd kick off first with Chuleng, because you're near to me, and you'll give us a rundown. I'm particularly interested to hear about the problems of rebuilding an industry from the point of view of labour shortages.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Imtiaz. I'm not sure. Yeah. Thank you. This is the first time here, so very interesting place. Probably not the last time to be here. So thank you for your invitation. And being a commercial person, I start off by PR my hotel. I hope you know my hotel really well. It's just this little noodle shop on Whittier Road. So thank you for the invitation. Maybe we start with the first slide. I know we talk about tourism and to rethink. So I was thinking a lot about this, and we know transportation is one of the key carbon, contributor to the world. So maybe the best way is to give up traveling. And we have given up traveling for 2.5 years in the last few years. Why not more, right? So since countries have been reopened, we see a lot of revenging traveling. So basically, it's not possible. So going to the next point, because, can you go? Because we are humans, we love to connect. And you can see tonight, even you have been having events a couple of times per week, we are still seeing a lot of people wanting to be around. So we get to be together. So we are contributing to the world. We need to travel. So what can we do to make this world a better place? We have Ukraine war, we have wars, we have flood. I'm sure living in Bangkok every other day. I was just saying my Muban, I can't leave my house now without turning my car to become a boat because it's flooding every day. And it's never happened before. So what could we do? So let's have a strategy together. Point 3, what can we do? Think big. Let's work with the government, everything. We have been having a lot of meetings all together to come up with a solution. And we've been doing this for as long as I remember, many, many years. How much have we progressed? We'll know tonight. So I'm a commercial leader, so I like to do this. I like to do baby steps. I like to do things I can do. And being a commercial leader, what can I do? So let me share my story. So quickly to the next slide. So the journey of our hotel. So 10 years ago, I have no idea about sustainability. I'm just a hotelier. I was selling, I make money, and that was my core duty. I know Ben since we were selling. But I came through a very inspired leader that told me differently about how we could organize and live our business to be more sustainable. And I was really inspired by him. And we took out the ISO certification of 2012-1, which is really running an event sustainably. And that was in 2013. So we were the first hotel in the world after the Olympic to be a sustainable hotel of running management. So over 1,000 meetings we have done since then. So did we stop there? No. In 2014, tried to set up a machine that recycle the water. Okay, Thai people, for water is not an expensive commodity because, in Thai they say nai nam mi na, right? Nai nam mi pla, so they have water everywhere. But I'm from Singapore. A drop of water is more expensive than gold. So for me, everything is recyclable. So we recycle water, 30% of that for not the drinking water, so don't worry, is for the garden and sanitation. So I thought it's just to be responsible and build the culture of being sustainable. Then afterwards, 2014 to 16, we were renovating the hotel. It's so easy to renovate hotels in Thailand. Throw everything out, rebuild everything new. But we decided to pick up a few good furniture. Good old wood is a lot better than new wood, the teak woods and all. But how do I repurpose to make it luxury? adding hills, adding marble top, adding glass top. So we did that, and actually we won a Best Sustainable Hotel Design Award in 2014. Moving along very quickly, I have to thank Kun Arut for this one. So working with Sept, we were talking about bringing farmers to function. And how did we start? We started with rice commodity. Rice is easy. When I heard about the story from Kun Arut, it really put tears in my eyes. In Thailand, more than 50% of the population of Thailand are agriculture, right? Farmers. But less than single digit, I would say single digit of the products are actually organic because of third-party pricing set up and things like that. So how did we work on this? Kun Arut make us meet all the farmers, build how we can deliver the products, agree with the pricing and the payment. And then 2016 become history. So yeah, every year we order over 20 tons. So if you come to my hotel, I guarantee you at least rice is organic, 100%. And it's not only for guests, it's for associates too. So we don't have double standard. Yeah. So apart from rice, and I'm sure later on you will hear from Kun Arut about other products, which I'm really, really happy to work on. I think that is one thing we can do as a country in Thailand. So 2018, it was very famous in the world about skipping the straw, not using plastic straw, no one-time straw. And we had, if you've been to my hotel, we do a lot of events. And very typical Thai banquets, you will have juice and you put a straw. Every glass. We don't do that. We put on signage to the guests, like if you want a straw, there are straws available. It's paper straws. So we reduce it almost to 70% of the straw utilization just by doing that. So we don't offer the straw unless someone asks for it. Not trying to be cheap, is really encouraging not to use it. So skip the straw. And then 2018, by then, 100% of the lights are LED. Why didn't we do it in 2014? We need to make the money to make the money. So it took a few years to convert 100%. So the story is if you start today, eventually you will be there. So it took us about 3-4 years to be there. Fast forward, next in 2019, which is just before pandemic, we were certified no food waste or 100% all-star. So what does it mean? It means that you see my hotel have buffets. If you have buffets, it means food waste, right? So our buffets is either after meal period, is either repurposed. We try to reduce anything that's in the station, but more of live cooking. And anything that is left over during a meal period, we will donate to the SOS and some communities. So basically, we don't want to throw it away. And there are people who always need it. So that's how we actually could achieve this one. And we measure every waste, from prep waste to plate waste. And my team is here. They know very well. Canteen, if anyone leaves a drop of rice on their plate before they throw away, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So it's very serious about no food waste, starting from the heart of house. Moving to 2020 is the famous year of the pandemic. So we have a lot of staff, but we have no guests. So what do? We train. So a lot of times there are housekeeping attendant wanting to be a waiter. No one has the time to do it. No one has the time to train. Every day is busy. We run like a chicken without a head. So who has time for training? Pandemic is opportunity. So we upskill the team. So my housekeeping associate, anytime we are low occupancy, we are full banquet house. When you come to my hotel, half the team are from engineer, from housekeeping. They have all done their training. So if I'm running 100%, the banquet halls are not busy, the staff is doing the bedroom. So that is the time when I actually did a lot of training in year 2020. Then for 2021, actually this bottle of water, we started since 2012-13 when we wanted to be an ISO certified hotel. We used to order 420,000 bottles of plastic water per year. I'm very guilty, right? Not to the sea, but I don't know where they throw it. So now, well, since then, this year we order, or last year we ordered around 8,000, which is like 1% of my consumption is plastic. Question is, why do we still need plastic? We still need plastic, which we could change it to only recycled plastic or maybe cotton water, is in limousine cars because of safety. You can't use bottled water. And also like sometimes guests wanting to leave the hotel to have a bottle of water to go for a run and things like that, we help them. So, but still it's down to 1%. All right. Last but not least, and one of the reasons I'm here is to share whatever we do in the hotel. There's no secret. The more hotels or organization interested, I've invited universities and even other hotels to the back of house to have a walk, to learn. There's no trade secrets. The more sustainable you are, it will be a better world. So that's our story. I hope you like it. Thank you. So the next slide, can you go to the next slide just to finish it? All right. I hope you know the pin of the UN SDG goal, the colorful pin, which I have that. This is our sustainable storybook. You can QR code for the book. And then the last one, which is a message for Dominic, maybe later on today. Next slide. Okay. So tonight we want to focus. We have done a lot. We're coming together. We're keeping together is the progress. But we now need to know how to work together is a final part of it. So thank you very much, everyone.
So let's move across from the private sector to Senator Wirasak and give us an idea of what it's like sitting at the top. You're the Minister of Tourism twice. You have this amazing industry that's going in all directions. It's driven by the private sector. You've got staggering numbers of hotels that are unlicensed and everything. Just give us an idea of how difficult it is to actually sit on top of something like that, and what would be required now to get it onto a much better track.
Yeah, the success story of Thai tourism industry is not at all lay on the foundation from the government acting. First thing first, the Ministry of Tourism and Sports was an accident in the delivery room. During the time when Prime Minister Thaksin decided to create 5 more new ministry, tourism and sport was not in his portfolio, not at all. It was the Senate at that time, we are talking about 20 years back, that the Senate was having an arm wrestling with him, saying that we are not going to give you the 5 new baby easily unless you give us the 6th one. And he asked, what's the name of the 6th baby? Senate say, we want sports tourism. No, not tourism. They want a sports ministry. God knows why. But Kun Thaksin at that time decided that, at that time, sports in Thailand are not making any business. They'll just come here and ask for money. Therefore, he go back to some of his office people and said, bring up something quick and that has anything to do with sports. And then a few formula was formed, and then it's come to the Senate in no time, like a week or so only, without any research paper backing it. So they came with the idea of having a newly established new baby by the name of Ministry of Sports and Tourism. And the Senate said, well, thank you for serving us. Let's change it a little bit to show that we have the power. Let's move it to Ministry of Tourism and Sports. At that time, nobody knew anything about tourism. And they didn't even realize that out of 2 million civil workers in Thailand who works for the government has known nothing at all about tourism, except about 1,000 people who has been working with the TAT, Tourism Authority of Thailand, and they are not civil servants. They are special agencies who has been working everything from the start to the end, signage, ladders, stairs, and toilets, and everything. And also do the advertisement. But then, politics said 20 years ago, let's have a new ministry. There we came, a new ministry who has been trying to struggle to find out what would they have to do because they do not know what to do. I was put into that ministry, I think, as the 5th minister. By the time I was in there, it was no longer a new ministry. But then I still find out that every now and then when foreign dignitaries and our partners who come walking up the step to the ministry, I don't even have a translator, or I do not have someone who was there to take notes because they were not equipped. Most of the civil servant who works there are people who are transferred from the physical education department. So they are Muay Thai instructor, they are scout trainers, that kind of thing. So don't blame them. They didn't ask for a new ministry for themselves. It was all political idea, but then it happened. So that's how it came into the place. And to answer Dominic's question of what was I feeling with that complicacy of the industry, at later day, the whole country believed that tourism industry is estimated to be about almost 19% of the GDP. We didn't plan that. And no foreigner come to Thailand to enjoy themselves with the government. They are here for the people. They are here for the culture. They are here for what the society has to offer. And then we still stuck with that same structure for the last 20 years. Regardless of you who come to be the new boss, you still have the same equipments to work with. And so we can't really truly think that it's going to get better by itself unless something need to be changed. There are a few more formulas that have been talking about of how to improve the government work on these issues. But even if you put me in the prime minister's seat, I don't think I can do it at a drop of a hat because in the last 100 years of the Thai legal system, I'm a lawyer, we have always put all the authorities of one single act into the hand of Director General. And now we have 250 Director Generals who are working for their own sake, who are working for their own KPIs, not for the country, but for the department. Even if the Prime Minister wants to run the whole concert, he can't. He can just give order, but he doesn't have the authority to make change to those little rules and regulations that each department have to do because it's written in the law unless he changed the law. And that's why in the last 3-4 years, I've been talking in the public a few times about what we should learn is from the example that they've been doing in South Korea. When Tom Yam Kung disease from Thailand, economic slash down in 1975, right? And it also hit in South Korea bad. When South Korean wants to rebuild their economy, they let little guys come up and say, oh, let's try to build our economy. Little guys said that you have too many laws. We can't keep up with those laws and regulations. So he asked someone from foreign countries to help advise the government. And the advice came like this. If you have too many laws, let's guillotine it, cut its head off. So they did. They did an ultimatum, national ultimatum, and they agree to get all of those laws they have in hand, throw it out into the ocean, and then tell every single department, say, whenever you need any power, you have to come back to the government and tell us exactly which article, not which law, which article that you need, which sentence that you need. We will go back into the ocean and bring it back to you. So they did that. 5 years passed. Economy starts running pretty well in South Korea. And that's how K-pop also get to pop from that part. Because there's not too many laws to be abided. And the government look back into the ocean that they just dumped most of their law into it. There's still like more than half of those laws still back into the ocean. That means they know that they have too many laws and regulations to run around with. And Thailand is getting stuck in that situation, but we didn't have the courage to throw those laws away. So that's been one of the rally that I've been talking to a lot of people. So it is the system, the legal system at first, to rebuild it, and also let's rebuild the structure of how the government is going to try to manage or at least support the tourism industry, which is vast enough, large enough, deep enough. It works for little guys elsewhere, and they get money to the community. Let's get rid of all of the nonsense that we can do that. Although through the COVID-19, we have spent a lot of money in getting vaccine and that kind of thing. But so we don't have that much of money to play with. The cheapest one to do is to get rid of those nonsense regulations. It doesn't take much money. It just takes courage. It takes knowledge, and it takes some drafting skills to get that happen. Yes, we might run into a time where we do not have the legal infrastructure at hand at one point, but it's going to be worthwhile. It is just political will that we have to make sure that learn from what they have been doing in South Korea, and their success, they get a lot of new ventures happening since then until now, and they are getting very strong. Another thing that I would like to quote is that let's stop just looking at foreigners coming into Thailand as people who bring in money. Either look at them as travelers or as investors. Well, that's always welcome. But look at the leader of Singapore said a few years back. He said, let's not just only attract foreign investment, let's attract foreign talent. And we need top foreign talent because lots of time when we look into among ourselves, we just start to believe no more of our own system. And that's why education become a part of the trap. A lot of parents and a lot of kids trying to climb the wall and go away to try to earn their knowledge elsewhere, because getting stuck into that box is not going to give them that much hope. I'm not saying that the Thai education system is false, but it is just didn't get the hope that they should deserve. So in all of those, rethinking tourism, because this is Wednesday, Tuesday, I believe, it was the tourism day, World Tourism Day. And the theme around the globe was about rethinking. And it's a good thing to do because after the 2-3 years of COVID, they have been rethinking a lot. They have been a suffer. And I agree with Shulong that when they have a lot of busy living room, guests are all everywhere in every corner of the countries. We were talking about over-tourism. But in the last 2 years, we don't have to think about that no more. But again, soon enough, that kind of problem is going to come back. Let's not just enjoy the revenge tourism. Let's not just enjoy seeing more and more like 40,000 a day flying into Suvarnabhumi alone every single day. And it's going to get higher and higher. So 10 million international visitors coming into Thailand this year is not a dream. It's going to happen. Not enough comparing to 2019 when we almost reached 40 million. So 10 million is not big enough numbers to rebuild the country, but it should be enough to restart the engine with a new thinking. And that new thinking would include responsible tourism, would include tourism for all, because the world is getting much older, and we believe that these what they call silver age generation are the last group who has the resource and time to travel. Also including the workation kind of travelers. So they're to be here, they'll be here, and it will make no sense talking about Chinese coming in or not, because the train connecting China to the southern part of region has already began. So it makes no sense that they will not come. They will come. It's the matter of what will we do to prepare ourselves when they come. India coming big. Middle East are reopening with a lot of traveling, and also the domestic travelers are making their self-presence to a lot of places in Thailand. Now, one of the things that I've been doing in the last 10, 15 years is to try to set an example of if we are going to if we are going to get the fact that the world is getting much older, so let's have the right facilities for them. Let's have the right mindset to receive them, because just a big smile and give them hospitality may not be just enough. Looking at bathroom and ramps and that kind of thing. We are going to have dual track trains around the country for the first time, and including all of these metro lines running in Bangkok. If all of them are all finished in 2-3 years from now, we're going to be number 5th city in the world that has the longest serving the electric train lines in the world. But see, signage have to be prepared, because there will be people who may not understand not even English who are coming here. And our people are not well equipped to translate. So signage will be one of the design that we have to go into quickly. I also bring some slides to show you tonight. If we are ready, let's put it on. For Tourism for All, I will start with some of the pictures that I've been going out into the field, collecting trash here and there, because those are still necessary. We want to set an example to locals and communities that not only that use less single-use plastic, but also let's go out and do more of this, because it's a good deeds. It prepare you to a lot more things that you have been keeping it under your nose. So go ahead, keep on going. That's one of the pictures that shows that single-use plastic, what can they do to the environment. Next. So he has been caught in that plastic, that sick pack, for when he's very little, and then he grows. Go ahead and next, please. He's not going to get that ring out of his mouth. Next. So come back to the toilet thing. This is when people start to realize that, hey, we're going to have to put handrail in the toilet, and that's how they put it in. And it's not going to make any use, is it? So now we have to go around and even put them kneel down with me on the floor and said, hey, this is what you should do. And that's one of the best one yet. You can find that at the Don Mueang airport. So they get the right thing in. Next. That was when I was the 3rd time minister at the tourism ministry. That's in front of Bytech Bang Na. And Bytech has prepared everything. They have escalator, they have the travelators and everything. But then that's the entrance from the BTS to go into the convention center. I said, let's do this. So I pick up him to come down and send this picture to the guys who run the facilities. Now they get rid of those. So the ramp has already been in. Next. This is picture from Europe. And the dual train track is going to go 7 directions from Bangkok in the next 3-4 years. But every single station that's train stop, you don't have that. So how on earth that you can get someone on wheelchair or the elderly to come down safely unless we start to see something? And this, when I show this picture to the locals, not to mention the people at the rail authority, they never seen it before. So it's new for them. Rethinking is to reimagine that what do we need is not a complicated thing. This is not a rocket science. Let's just build it up. We probably can do that much cheaper than what they do in Europe. We used, during my time at the ministerial, we invite 13, 14 people with visionary impair who are blind from England to come to Thailand. And it gave us a lot of new experience of what else can we do to bring them to appreciate Asian society. Well, I've been doing quite a lot about this, and it's a long way to go. But inclusive tourism definitely is one part of regional responsible tourism. And SDG will also need to have ESG, environment impact, environment concern, social participation and social responsibility, and good governance. The three things only that can bring us through these difficult times that COVID is going away, but many other new challenges are coming in. Thank you.
So let's move on to Kunarut and give us an idea of how a traditional family-based organization in the travel industry has been damaged and what the prospects are going forward.
Our family business is Suan Sampran, okay, formerly known as Rose Garden. I think, judging you've heard of it before. My grandmother started it in 1964. My mother was running it throughout the 70s and the 80s, and there was the heydays of tourism when there was a lot of tourists, a few thousand going to the floating market on a daily basis. So we actually got the tourists coming back to Bangkok to have lunch and watch our show. And our show was the longest running show in Thailand for many years. It's the second show after the Team Land. I don't know if Kun Imtiaz probably knows about Team Land, but and it was running nonstop for 46 years. So, if you compare it to the West End or Broadway. But then when I came back to manage our property, I was working in Bangkok after my studies in the UK. I was a chemical engineer, so I came back. I went to Shell. I did a bit of. I had a stint of broking. Of course, and everyone was getting triple that salary if you can speak English. And obviously the Tom Yum Goong came in 1997. And I went to work for a power company, a very big one, before I went back to help the family business about 15 years ago.
So Peter, we're talking about regional differences. Where does something like Pata fit into this whole picture of reforming tourism? We've just heard a very revolutionary approach to it, which is certainly very unusual. But what's Pata up to at the moment? Is it getting any success, or has it just been decimated by the absence of tourists?
Yeah, thanks so much, Dominic. I hope all of you can hear me.
Yeah, it's good.
I think there's a slight delay. Greetings from Dili, Timor-Leste. It's 10:20 here, and it's been really great to hear the three presenters that came before me. I'm representing PATA, the Pacific Asia Travel Association. I'm the chairman of PATA. PATA's been in existence for over 70 years, really working across the Asia Pacific region. First started in the Pacific. We were first called the Pacific Area Travel Association. And then in the 70s, it was quite clear that tourism in Asia was going to boom. And so we changed our name to be the Pacific Asia Travel Association. I also wanted to mention, because I was listening to Senator Wirasak, I'm based in Timor-Leste right now. I work for a USAID-funded project called Tourism for All, but it's a little bit of a different slant from what the Senator was sharing with us. And here it's very much about how do we leverage tourism as a economic diversification tool to really start to engage communities and to really start to engage all of society. Because It's interesting. I always enjoy, I lived in Thailand for a long time, and I still have a home in Thailand, in Bangkok, and I love to go there very often. And I always love to hear everybody that lives in Thailand and to explain all of the difficulties and the complications of tourism in Thailand. Quite frankly, Thailand is a world leader in tourism. It has tremendous success, which is really the envy of so many destinations across Asia and the Pacific. And I think that Thailand needs to sometimes take a bow and recognize all of the great successes. And I think it's something that a lot of destinations, I've worked across Southeast Asia, and I always use Thailand as an example of great success. Yes, there's complications, there's difficulties, but it's just incredible how tourism is embraced by the Thai people, the service and hospitality spirit of the Thai people, the facilities and the infrastructure are incredible. So, what I want to talk about today. PATA is supposed to be the leading organization, the voice of Asia Pacific tourism, and certainly where we are post-COVID is a very difficult situation. Our membership includes government and private sector. Actually, we're quite unique because most associations like the UN World Tourism Organization will be primarily government focused. The World Travel and Tourism Council will be much more private sector focused, and we've tried to straddle the two over the life of the organization, and really focus on this concept of public-private partnership, and how do we bring them together. I would say that, in many ways, PATA, we're struggling to even before COVID, we were very much struggling to find relevance for an association that was built and conceived in the 1950s. And tourism has just changed so much, particularly in the last 20 or 30 years, that it's very difficult to keep up and to maintain relevance. Digitalization and the internet and the connectivity that comes as a result of that has challenged our association a lot in terms of being able to, we used to say that we were a wonderful platform for networking. We created the concept of the travel mart, which was a concept that was established in the 1970s of bringing buyers of tourism primarily from Europe and North America, with sellers of tourism, which were where all of the different private sector entities and destinations and wanting to bring them together. Obviously, through technology, that networking function has been difficult to continue, and also the idea of a travel mart has been replicated so many times. The Thais have an annual travel mart. There's a regional one, ASEAN based. So where do we go from here, and where have we been in the past? PATA has always been around when there's been difficulty and when there's been crisis. I remember in the early 2000s, we helped a lot in bringing together when we had the Bali bomb. We helped the destination there to really rejuvenate its image. During the tsunami, we were very active as well. And during SARS, which now that we've had COVID, SARS seems like nothing, but at the time, SARS seemed like a really big deal. What we want to be at PATA, and what we're working very hard to be, is we want to be a thought leader, and we want to take good practice examples such as those that have been presented today, and really be able to grow them and replicate them across the industry and across the region. I was listening the other day. There was and I think where the challenge comes for an association like PATA, and frankly for the whole tourism industry, is I think that COVID is a wake-up call And indeed, it's presented us with an opportunity, but it's an opportunity that we might miss. A lot of people, the other day, as Senator Wierasak was saying, it was World Tourism Day yesterday, and there was a big event that happened in Bali that was connected with the G20. And during the event, we had there were a number. I was just joining it remotely. I'm getting very good at listening in through Zoom. So there were a lot of thought leaders that were on a panel, a number of ministers, the Secretary General of the UNWTO, and they were all asked, hey, well, how are we going to rethink tourism? And we really, the conclusion was that we need to focus on sustainability. We need to focus on human capital development. We need to focus less so. I mean, the big number was sustainability. Everybody was bringing up sustainability. Then the other thing was we have this human capital crisis. And to a lesser degree, there were comments about innovation and investment in tourism, but they were very low percentages. I joined the tourism industry back in 1989. And we were talking about sustainability then. And I think it's wonderful what the Athene Hotel has done. And I think it's wonderful what Kun Arut is doing. And I think that those are really great examples of individual enterprises and individual entrepreneurs really doing something for sustainability. But when I listen to the word sustainability as a tourism professional and is now the leader of PATA, I actually have to scratch my head and say, what does sustainability really mean? Is it a buzzword that we want to continue to reuse and reuse? And how is anything going to be different as we emerge out of this post-COVID situation? And I would venture to guess, let's take the destination of Thailand. I would venture to guess, Senator Wierasak, that you'll be up at 40 million visitors in a couple of years, and you'll have over tourism with lots of Chinese visitors, and you'll have a lot of the Thais getting frustrated with having to deal with all of the falang racing around the country, and it'll be very much business as usual. What concerns me, though, is that I think that this is our last chance for tourism. We have a bit of an existential threat that is really in front of us. Yes, the environment is a big problem, but we also have issues of conflict and strife between faith and religion, and we're on what some would say on the verge of World War III, and we're concerned about whether or not the Chinese are going to invade Taiwan, and so on and so forth. It really starts to concern me, because I think the tourism industry is such a fragmented sector that we actually cannot speak in a unified voice. And I think that Senator Wierasak's comments about the government and where the government fails tourism, they're real. And yes, it has to deal with a lot of complexity in law and probably over-regulation. And when we talk about tourism, when we talk about roles and responsibilities of public and private sector, the government needs to be the facilitator. And it needs to really take off its policeman's hat and stop being the regulator, but be the facilitator. And I think there needs to be less of a top-down approach to tourism. And I'm not going to use the term community-based tourism, which is another thing. So we have responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, community-based tourism, and we like to all clump those together. And we have lots of conferences about all of those three topics, and we say how wonderful it is and how we're going to do all those things. But community-based tourism is actually a misnomer in my mind. All tourism is community-based. after all, the act of being a tourist and the act of being a host is that you as the host are welcoming somebody into your home. And that could be, you know, at the larger scale of a country, or it could be within a municipality, or it could be within a village. I think that we need to, and I really am more and more grappling with this thing of community-led tourism, and really thinking about developing tourism from the bottom up, and allowing and having government at the national level, at the municipal level, at the provincial level, being the facilitator of that, and also being willing and able to partner with the private sector in a real substantive way. I always find it amazing as I speak to private sector people or to the government. And again, I do in my business that I do down here in Timor-Leste, where I do have to work with the government and the private sector. They're like cat and dog, or like Tom and Jerry, because the government will say the private sector is doing this, and the private sector will say the government isn't facilitating, and so there's always this ongoing frustration that comes about as a result of you know, sort of that disconnect and that fragmentation. And I think the other thing that lacks within the tourism narrative and discussions is there needs to be more of the community at the community really starting to be part of the dialogue of how to develop tourism. The only way that we're ever going to reach sustainability is by stopping to preach it and actually do it. And I think, again, you know, kudos to the Athene Hotel and to Kun Arut for some of the examples that they've given. But there really needs to be that sort of bottom up approach, much more empowering local communities, because otherwise what's going to happen in a place like Thailand is that eventually you're going to create animosity by the Thais for the visitors, because it's too much. It gets exhausting, especially when some of the quality of your visitors is questionable. And I refer to mass tourism, that there's too much. You know, it's overwhelming. And so I think it's very important to you know, to find that balance.
Peter, can I ask you a question?
I would be so happy if you asked me a question, because I'm sitting here.
You've talked about how tourism should be run, but I think you should give us an explanation of why do we have tourism? What is the point of tourism? It's got the most massive carbon footprint. In the case of Thailand, we have 10 million Chinese coming in here. The phenomenon was known as $0 tourism because no money was going into the Thai economy.
That's right.
It was crooked. Yeah. It was all tied up, wrapped up. And in fact, the year when COVID struck, Thailand was about to run out of water. We didn't have enough water for the tourists in Pattaya. Fortunately, tourism, the COVID hit in, and we didn't have a lot of smelly tourists around. But what is the point of flying all these people around the world to the same shops that they eat in at home? Is it really culturally enriching? Is there any point? I can understand business travel.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful question, Dominic, and I thank you for asking it. From a development perspective, and I think the reason that it's been embraced across the Pacific Asia region is that it really is the ultimate cross-cutting industry, in the sense that it ticks all the boxes when we talk about, you know, let's say the Sustainable Development Goals. And even before that, the Millennium, the MDGs before that. It touches on, or it can impact positively on everything from women to youth. It can help preserve heritage and feature heritage. It creates economic opportunity. And so there's a lot of reasons for it in a lot of parts of the world where there aren't many other economic options. So, for example, in Timor-Leste, which could be comparable to all of the Pacific Islands that PATA represents, it's the only one chance to really bring people out of poverty. I think where we failed, though, is I think all of the things that you've identified is we haven't found that correct balance yet. And I think what we've done, and it's the fault of tourism leaders before me, and perhaps I'm victim of that as well. We created the wrong metrics to begin with for the industry, and it all became about volume. So it was, the three things. It was the number of visitors, the length of their stay, and their per diem spend, and then we would that's how we would calculate success. And so I think, Dominic, my response to what you're actually saying is that we probably need to recalibrate the metrics. We need to redefine how tourism can be successful. And that really looks at a number of things from the environmental element. It looks at how is tourism really alleviating poverty? Is it really trickling down to the communities? And if not, why? And how are we going to dig deeper to do that? The other thing that I wanted, Dominic, and then I really do appreciate if you and we can, I hope this stimulates some thoughts. But, I think one thing that's really important to recognize within tourism is that it's a business, and it has a very distinct supply and demand side. And many of you have taken, Econ 101. And I think a lot of times, if we talk about the wonderful things that Chuleng was sharing with us about what she's done with her hotel, that's very much a supply side oriented, proactive initiative. I think going forward, what we need to do is that we need to ask the tourists actually to take some sort of agree to some sort of a code of conduct that would maybe span over a number of different issues that have to do with social, environmental, making sure that they're spending their dollar in the right place. So a lot of it has to, and I think, if we look, you need to break out tourism demand into a whole. Generationally, they're very different. How the millennials travel and how the baby boomers travel can be very different. But we need to really communicate, I think, with the younger generation who is starting to look at tourism differently, and for whom we can influence the way that they look at tourism in a different way. And I think through that, maybe we can start to address, how are we going to make tourism more respectful to the environment? How are we going to make it more respectful to the local society and more beneficial to the local economy? So I hope that's helpful, Dominic. Thanks again Dominic. Thanks for asking. Because I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm sorry about that.
Don't worry about it. We hate PowerPoints.
I understand that.
Senator Wirasak, you mentioned this whole issue of overregulation. You gave us the example of Korea throwing everything out of the book into the sea and then recovering the things that were useful. As you well know, Thailand has completely missed the boat on the guillotine. It had the opportunity to change all this stuff. Prayut could have invoked Article 44 and got rid of all the redundant laws, all the terrible immigration regulations at a stroke. He would have been the most economically effective prime minister since Anand. It did not happen. And because that has been missed, what you're talking about is not going to happen. This piecemeal approach to reform ain't going to happen until people get serious about it and realize that they've got to come together, restore all those points that TDRI brought out, 6,000 reforms, get them back on the agenda and get it sorted out seriously if they want the Thai economy to recover. And tourism is a very important element in that, particularly immigration law. What do you say?
Looking at the turbulence coming in to the next wave, I don't think we will have enough focus to work on this kind of issue. General election is coming. It's not a wave. It's an opportunity. But we are going to miss that opportunity again because everybody wants to hear who is going to give us more, in their words. But then the level of flooding, not only with the water, but also with the current situation of what happened after the between the war and the economic downturn is going to be with us for another 3 years. Maybe at the end of that 3 years, some focus can concentrate in really coming back and dealing with some essential, fundamental thing that need to be reformed. Before the coup, 6 years, 8 years ago, we were having a meeting like this almost every week, every night, until late at night. And we were thinking about reform before election, or election first and reform after. That was what we were talking about. And then we found that after the coup happened, then it's like when you try to dry your clothes, to hang your clothes in the sun. The military power came in with about this length of a wire piece that they can hold probably 3 towers. But then everybody from every walk of life and every corner has come up with some heavy soak coat to also hang it on. Therefore, the movement towards reform become too cumbersome for even the militaries or anyone who has that absolute power to handle. But then they do not have the prioritization process to know what to do and what not to hang. Therefore, the whole hanging system low itself down, and that all the new watch clothes got messed up on the grass at the end of the day. Having said that, do they do a lot? Yes, they did. But just hanging too many towers on the same piece of wire and then it dropped down to the floor doesn't mean that you didn't do things, but it's just you didn't get the success that everybody was picking up.
So 3 years, and
I guess.
And not relying on the kind of initiatives that Arut has. I mean, you did that off your own bat. That's not. You weren't encouraged. It's not coming from top down. So, question.
Hello to Peter first. We have not met him many times since the lunch in Sam Square ages ago. Starting from what Kun Arut said, I will have a question for Senator Virasak. I know my farmer, I know where my rice comes from. I buy it from Pitsenloch, a very nice group of people who do everything from their very nice rice up to a nice Ahan Punban restaurant in Pitsenloch that is absolutely marvelous. The problem is that because we have gone, as all of you described, to mass tourism, how do we ensure that the revenue that goes to the farmer or the small restaurant owner in Pitsenloch when I buy my rice or my meal there, how can we ensure that this happens nationwide, right? The problem is once we had 40 million visitors like in 2019, the numbers don't matter. It becomes a big business, and the small numbers were lost. So you can't blame the Chinese or even the Chinese tour companies. Even Thailand was forgetting about the individuals. It was about getting hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people. The individual did not matter. How do we bring back things to human size? So my question is to Senator Virasak. As a former minister 2 or 3 times, as you mentioned, how do you ensure that the type of things that Kun Arut mentioned, the local initiatives, actually has a real place, not just nominal, let's talk about good things and let's do bad things as a day-to-day thing. How do we actually implement the small farmer schemes in a national policy to bring tourism to that thing that I've heard for 30 years now in Thailand? We must upgrade the level of tourism, to bring real value. How do you do that at the policy level? How do you make sure that the subprime model works?
Without getting CP to run it.
It's all about KPI, Key Performance Index. Unless we change those things or we change the law, every single 250 agencies in the government system is going to do exactly the same than what they have done in the last 40, 50 years. And it's always increasing. You can probably, I can guess that Arut has been asked to be in more meeting room these days with agencies in the government, regardless of which government, because they want to take his success story to become their success story. Not to try to help him, but to try to gain credit from what he has just did. And it seems to be a vicious circle in the Thai system, where you can't get yourself out of anything like that. No one. Therefore, I would say we haven't hit the rock just yet. COVID-19 has been very hard on us, but we are not alone in this part of the world. And every country in the world has been hit rock hard. So, looking to the horizon, nobody really climbed back up just yet. But everybody is going to climb, and they're going to rethink and rebuild their country. But for us, we still have cheaper food, low cost of living, and the law prevent and guarding civil servants from changing anything from what they have been doing. Because the salary is still the same. They get promotion every year. They are the only people who enjoy those benefits. Even until now, we still do not have enough guts to change a few things for the civil servants, because we're going to give them pension all the rest of their life. We give them free medical coverage to them and their families to the rest of their life. I don't think we can afford that. I'm not suggesting that we should cut that all off that right now, but we should start thinking about that seriously. But to try to return to that attention, we don't even have the courage to work correctly with the marijuana. Oh no, I mean the cannabis.
There's a shop in the building, by the way.
I know, I saw that.
Missed it on the way in from the SkyTrain. Amazing.
See, that is minor compared to what the question you just asked. And we didn't have even the focus to work on that thing. So that's why I just keep on going on my own and do things on my own, on the ground.
Before I get to another question,
Sure.
Is there a national tourism plan in place?
Yes.
Is there anything that...
We have all plans.
You've got lots of plans.
Lots of plans.
Does anybody read them?
See, you'll be surprised to know that out of 20 ministries in Thailand, tourism ministry is the third from the bottom to get funding. It's probably the second from the bottom to have any real power of law to change anything. The only law we have is the right to issue a card for tour guide. That's it. We cannot do anything more.
Somebody needs to do it. Can we get a question? We've got two people.
May I talk?
Yeah, quickly.
Can I add quickly?
Sure.
No, I think okay, that's on the government. I think on the private sector side, okay, I think we don't wait around for the government's help. Okay, so basically the platform, okay, the idea is to make everything transparent. So really to entice, say, Kun Chu Leng, buying from farmers. So what we're doing, the system we were promoting, that's why being supported by the TAT is that all that is transparent to consumers. Whether it can be like a mice group going to her hotel, they can see that she's not lying, that she's buying 30,000 baht a week. All that's transparent. And we've started this system for Earth Points. So every 25 baht, she gets 1 Earth Point. So like companies like PTT who wants to find a green venue, they would choose, and then she could be promoted by Sept. So this kind of I think positive empowerment, businesses like us, to do that. And I mean, we want to push for even tax incentives. So when I was working for Shell, they were getting BOI privilege, 5 + 3 years, same as a power company. How come like hotels like us, if we get some tax incentives, that could be really push it. So I think the government would, they're welcome to support us, but even we'll do it anyway because it's
Which is the way the private sector's
and
always
Thailand's
operated.
always
for good or
leading the
bad.
government anyway. The government's always So I think Thailand's always been.
I believe in baby steps. You guys have already seen. So recently, actually last month only, together with Kunarut, we are working with this gentleman. You can search him on. His name is Marcus Shingles, and he's also working projects for World Economic Forum. And we're actually doing a project. If you notice, you go to restaurants, when you're given a bill, it say tip, right? The tip part is to the server. So the project of this is to tip the farmer, an organic farmer. It's like amazing. And it's through the blockchain technology. It's so amazing. I was so intrigued by it. And I pulled Arut in to be part of the team to actually do a white paper together. So hopefully soon we could actually have a tip the farmer, whereby who the farmer is producing you these vegetables and their stories, sharing their stories, and you can tip them accordingly, and it goes the money directly to them, not to the hotel. So prepare your tips. That's what I say. Thank you.
Right, question.
Hi, good evening. My name is Annette. I'm from Chiang Mai. I've been in tourism for 35 years. I've been former president of SCOL International in Chiang Mai, and I'm also honorary Irish consul. So very interesting comments from everybody. Thank you very much. Kun Arut spoke about trust, just something really basic. The tour operator's license is only in Thai. So when a foreigner comes to look at a tour operator, they can't read it. It used to be only in English. So just something, it should actually be bilingual so everybody can understand it. So that's one point. Kun Arut was talking about organic farming. So I come from the center of organic farming in Chiang Mai. We have organic vegetables everywhere. It's wonderful. A lot of chef's tables, a lot of farm-to-table events going on. So far, I didn't hear anybody mention long-stay tourism. Kun Dominique mentioned about the carbon footprint. But when people are coming for a longer time, there's definitely less of a carbon footprint. And Chiang Mai has been voted #1 for digital nomads many, many, many times. So maybe you have some comments on long-term tourism. And we also have a lot of wellness tourism in Chiang Mai to continue what Senator Weersak had to say. So we have a lot of care facilities for people with Alzheimer's and disability, etc. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the carbon footprint. I mean, you inject it when you fly in, and the second half is when you fly back. So the footprint's the same. It's just a bigger space of time between it. Anyway, I'm being pedantic. Imtiaz? They were two. Does anybody want to comment on that? Arun?
Can I so I'd like to comment on the carbon footprint. Organic farming actually emits less carbon footprint. There's been researchers around the world, and right now our association is doing a research with Chiang Mai University. So basically, in the future, when Kun Chu Leng would be offering a meal for a group, when you buy that, the group coming, and then you can actually quantify how much carbon footprint reduction compared to conventional produce. So this is something we are pushing forward. And as I've mentioned, a lot of big companies like CP, PTT, everyone is rushing to reforestation. There's only about 10 million rai of reforestation possible in Thailand. Everything's been booked up by big companies. But there's 150 million rai, half of our country, can be converted to organic. So this is the future. There's been research. So basically now, organic is not just for health, but big companies can support organic farmers. Maybe organic farmers can sell carbon credit. We're working with the TGO, the Thai Greenhouse Gas Organization right now. So this is something ongoing. That's why I think I feel that it's just, I think we want to broaden people's mind that not individuals and corporates. It's not just we are in this together, not just doing just for our health or for the meal. But I think it's the big picture is here. Yeah.
Sawadee-krap. Good evening, panelists. Thank you very much indeed for some wonderful comments and for joining us this evening. My name is Imtiaz Maqbil. I'm the executive editor of Travel Impact Newswire. I was just wondering what all the panelists felt about this dual pricing scheme at Thai attractions, museums, national parks, etc., etc. It's clearly there's a large captive audience of expatriates here who pay tax and other things, and when they land up at these places, they have to pay the separate pricing system. Plus, you have the tourists. Plus, on top of that, we are now going to be expecting long stay visitors, workation people who will also be having to be charged this dual system. Do you think that's run its course, that perhaps it's time to move on from that and find ways of flattening that charge? And perhaps, Peter, if you would like to also comment on that, because the dual pricing system is not just in Thailand, but it's also in Bali and in many other places around Asia. Do you think it's time to have a look at this system-wide, because it's clearly discriminatory and something needs to be done about it? It does rub people up the wrong way, and it certainly can create a lot of problems. So I just wondered what the panel would like to say about that.
I'll try on that one. The dual pricing system in Thailand has been practicing for so long time. And those are, again, the KPI and also the privilege of each individual department. You go into the park, it is the park department who collect those and have the right to either get rid of or do something about it. Other agencies just do not have the rights. It doesn't even have to go into the cabinet because it's written in the law. You have to go through the parliament, and the parliament didn't look at this thing as a priority thing to do first. That's the flaw of the system. But what I think is look at it from the brighter side, the research funding in Thailand is getting a lot larger. And more of those are no longer just opinion collector. They are becoming paper of research, which proper paper. Therefore, I hope it will, one day or the other, soon enough, will get to the right attention of those who are running the policy. In the last 2-3 decades that have been in this politics, mostly we see the formation of policy from the thinking of policymaker without any good information. They just take what they see in their constituency and turn it into a national policy. Therefore, it seems to be fair at that time where they see foreigners, especially from European countries, coming to Thailand and pay 40 times or 4 times more to enter the park than the locals do. And they think that is a fair thing to do. I have heard about this complaint for quite some time. Although I did talk and raise this issue to my fellow cabinet member, the answer is say yes. They said, if we lower that cost, will you guarantee that our department will get enough funding to protect the park? And I learned it during the hardship of COVID. All of 20,000 individual toilet seats in the parks around Thailand didn't even get a dime from the government to clean it, because the budget bureau said that, well, the park department has collected a lot of money to their pocket. We are not going to give them any more budgeting annually to clean those toilets. It's their job to use those funding. See, it's becoming every single agency have their own gates, their own law, their own regulations, and they are running for themselves. And it's becoming a style for each department to do that. And that's why we learn in the administration when we form a cabinet that we need more deputy prime minister, because he doesn't have any portfolio. He will be sitting in the head of the desk, talking to every single agencies, and he doesn't have any interest from those that he can demand the change. But the question here comes with, if Deputy Prime Minister usually are someone very high up in terms of seniority, either by age or by ranking, has he been reading enough? Has he been knowing enough? Or he's just be there and let what the secretariat of the meeting will present to him? Of course, secretariat are civil servants. They are not. He is not going to propose anything that is going to harm him, having difficulty walking around with other 250 departments, knowing that you are trying to crack our jackpot post. And that's why I think knowledge is one thing. So information and knowledge. Second is the right mindset, the right attitude towards what the problem is lying ahead. What I said tonight doesn't seem to like a good promise, but I say we can't jump into any good news unless we have enough knowledge, enough information, the right direction to go, and the right skill to redraft the law. So those are the three things that I think will happen. Even if new leaders, whoever that might be, in the next 6 months will come after the election and want to do this, and want to do the guillotine, the legal regulatory guillotine, we still do not have enough manpower to do that process, even if the authorities said yes, because never been done before, never been known before.
Thanks, Imtiaz, for the question. I wanted to raise the example of Komodo Island in Indonesia, because I think it's an interesting example. They used to have the dual pricing, so it was $5 for an Indonesian to go in, and it was $10 for a foreigner to go in. The Indonesian government recognized that in order to conserve Komodo Island, the conservation of Komodo Island is an overwhelmingly expensive activity, and the carrying capacity of the island is also limited. So what they did is that they came up with it's controversial, but they came up with an annual membership where somebody pays $250 per annum and then go as many times as they want. That then it brings advantage to the local or the resident of Indonesia, be it a foreigner or not, and would take care of that access thing. But I do think when we talk about taxation, I think that one thing across the board with the tourism industry is that we really need to do more of an honest balance sheet of what the actual cost is of hosting visitors in certain locations, and then being able to distribute that money in a more effective way. And again, I think what Senator Wirasat was saying is very valid, that sometimes public institutions really aren't able to manage some of these locations, and so even the mechanism of public-private partnerships and really starting to partner more with the private sector to add more value to the destination, and therefore people would be willing to pay more for that experience.
Peter, do you advocate having a tourism tax so that every tourist that arrives is charged, say, 500 baht, that would then go into a central fund and be distributed for the monuments? Very, very simple, and that everybody gets what they need.
Absolutely. I actually think that if we're going to be truly sustainable in the future, we also have to have the money to do that. And I think as long as it is clearly communicated for what that money is for, and it's truly allocated to that purpose, I don't think that a visitor will have an issue with that. I think that's fair enough. But it needs to be well communicated. I'm not going to pay 500 baht and it's just going into the central coffers of the government, and I don't know what it's being allocated for. And I think being able to tell the story of how that money benefits communities and benefits individuals will make the visitor even more happy to pay that additional amount of money. It's just communication.
And of course, you tax the people who never go to temples or parks or anything. They just come through the gates for all the wrong reasons, but they pay as well.
Yeah, well, but again, what is the money being used for? Is it being used to look? You suggested for the parks or whatever. That would have to be thought. But maybe it's not necessarily for the parks. Maybe it's for developing community-led tourism. Maybe it's for developing. Yeah, at some point, the visitor does have to pay the actual cost of. In the past, it's always been the tourism dollars that were collected were used again to market to those people to get more. It was always, the money was spent on the demand side, whereas I think perhaps if we're collecting fees, more of that money could be spent on the supply side.
Great. Before we go, I want to ask Chuleng about this whole issue of labour and the incredibly destructive effect of COVID on the labour market, particularly in hotels and restaurants. And everybody talks about, we're just going to go back to situation normal and gangbusters. And in fact, it's not possible because these people have gone out of the market. So can you just quickly go through your experience?
Okay, so business is back, but people working in the business is not. And you wonder, where have they gone, right? I guess a lot of, especially Bangkok, associates that work in restaurants and housekeepers, housekeeping attendant, and stewarding, there are a lot of them from out of Bangkok. So during the pandemic time, they actually had, I would say, income, which is a combination of salary and service charge. Service charge is when you go to hotels and they say plus, you get the 10%. 10% doesn't come to the hotel. It goes 100% to the associate. Of course, during the prime time, you have a lot of business. So the service charge for my kind of hotel can go to 20 over 1,000 baht. So for a lot of these basic wages associate, 60-70% of their income is relying on the revenue of the service charge. So if a pandemic hits, even we don't do any salary cut for these associates, they don't have enough money to sustain a rented room in Bangkok City, to take a BTS to come to the hotel. It was breaking my heart. But we have no choice. They all have to pack their bags, go back to the province, and it's so sad. Now that the business is back, our service charge is around 20,000. It takes them a lot of effort to bring everything back, to pay a deposit, to find an apartment. It costs them a lot of money. So just talking to Dominic before we had this session, I said, one of the things is maybe to change the way we pay them. The income, their income, maybe to pay a decent salary. So I think the government announced the basic salary to increase by 30%. I actually like it. I think it's fair. Being cheap is not good. Most other countries do not rely on the 10% service charge. A lot of countries, you travel to other countries in hotels, you pay service charge, it actually goes to the hotel. It doesn't really go to associates. It's just part of the, except for Thailand though. So it is part of whatever, and then they put it as an income to the associates. So I think that's a good thing that we are changing now. I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. So hopefully this will help us to bring manpower back. And then since we're on manpower, if I'm the Prime Minister, one thing I'm going to change is the education system. So education system is a combination for my industry, the University or Vocational College, and my industry. Meaning, when they come for a training, they actually do real training, not tick the box training. Because a lot of the training requirement is too short hours. 2 months, everyone is, I'm done, tick the box, what are you doing? I need to chill and relax. No one is spending time to teach you, because I've been a trainee when I was doing hotel school in Switzerland. I had to do 6 months. Real work. These guys, 2 months, I'm just counting, can I have leave earlier? So we will not get quality manpower if we continue this kind of training. And my kind of business, the practical training is critical to success.
Right, well, good luck with the education system, because that's been going on for a long time.
That's always fun.
Right, I think I'm going to wrap it. That was an interesting session. It was very nice to have you all here. I'd like to thank Senator Wirasak, Peter in Bali, lucky fella, Arut from the beautiful Rose Garden, lovely golf course, by the way, and Chulengo from the Athenae. Thank you very much.